descend here on this Mardi Gras dawn at the intersection of hope and desire, where the moan of the steamboat whistle is reminiscent of yesteryear. The air is
remembering Hurricane Katrina.
And we hear no
Next on Black Nouveau.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton, Dockery.
And I'm Faithe Colas. We're glad you could join us. This week, we'll have one of the last interviews given by the late author E. Lynn Harris.
Actor Hill Harper joins us to discuss ways to help high school students prepare for college. And I'll talk with former heavyweight champion George Foreman about the importance of fatherhood.
But first, New Orleans is still recovering from the Hurricane Katrina. You may remember the Milwaukee Rep presented one of the first productions that looked at the devastation and what it meant for the residents there. Our Everett Marshburn reported that story for us.
You're watching the dress rehearsal for the Milwaukee Rep's new cabaret entertainment, Fire on the Bayou. It's a mystical musical tour of New Orleans history and music as seen through the eyes of Katrina survivors.
Being a native of New Orleans, I witnessed one of the most catastrophic events in U.S. history in terms of hurricanes. And so I kept being pulled back to that event.
Kevin Ramsey created and directed the show. He has performed similar duties on a number of Rep productions, including Grafton City Blues.
The word Katrina, I found out, meant to cleanse. And New Orleans needed a cleansing. The city had always, as great as it is, as powerful, as beautiful of what it's created, it's been steeped in tremendous corruption, tremendous disregard for the disenfranchised, tremendous lack of responsibility for the have-nots. It's still very hard, you know, when I think about that city. I remember witnessing the hurricane on CNN, and there was a moment where I saw a grocery store that's called the Circle Food Store, and the water was up to its sign, and the sign was about 20 to 30 feet off the ground. So when I saw the water was at that level, I immediately knew that my parents' house that my father had built, who's now deceased, was probably gone. So it's still very painful. My mom is 92 years old. The beautiful thing about that is that my sister is building her a new house, which will be completed in the next 2 months. And my sister is building a roundhouse, lifting it off the ground, eco-friendly, environmentally sound. And it's going to create a bit of architectural history in New Orleans.
New Orleans is surrounded by water. It's like a soup bowl. Got the Mississippi River to the south, and Lake Pontchartrain connect to the Gulf in the north. Being below sea level, this complex system of levees and drainage canals, spillways, and pumping stations were designed to keep the life-giving waters from drowning its citizens.
The night of the storm, it was raining just as hard in the station as it was outside. Katrina was still 6 hours from landfall.
Being involved with this piece, it's coming from the inside out. And you becoming some of the characters in this play, you can understand how it felt to be like on the front lines, as it were, you know, to be there and to be, you know, the wind and whipping around you and holding on to somebody, and it's raining and people are screaming, and but then somebody pulls out a harmonica at the Superdome and everybody starts to sing, you know, and there's always that hopefulness that is our human spirit that keeps us going forward, I think.
Beyond Katrina, the production offers insights into New Orleans' rich musical history and culture.
What's interesting about New Orleans is that out of all the other states in the nation, New Orleans during slavery was the only city in the nation that the drum wasn't banned. And because the drum was not banned, it spawned jazz. It spawned a new form of music. If Milwaukee was the city in which the drum was not banned, Milwaukee would have been the city that would have spawned the creation of jazz. But the drum is what, it comes from the earth, it comes from the ground. and it's from that place. It was a place called Congo Square, where you would have Germans and Irish, free men, slaves, people of all ethnicities converging on this one particular location, which is right off of the French Quarters where Louis Armstrong Memorial Park is. That was called Congo Square. And because of that, people would gather in these ritual celebrations. And it was out of that that the beginning of jazz was formed. And then you had the European influence with the French and the Spanish. And they brought the horn, the sound of the horns. And it was just this, as we say in the play, it was like lighting meat and thunder. And it created jazz. Because of segregation, black people were not allowed to participate in the quote-unquote traditional form of carnival, Fat Tuesday. So in the neighborhoods, they would begin to develop their own forms of celebration. And one of the forms that came out of that was the masking Mardi Gras Indians. And it was, once again, the collaboration between the Native Americans and, at that time, slaves who sought refuge with the Native Americans. And because of that, they celebrate the Native Americans by making these beautiful beaded costumes on Mardi Gras Day. And it takes a year, basically. From the end of Mardi Gras Day, they start making that new suit for the following year. So you have the mixture of the Mardi Gras Indian music. Dixieland is just a form of those European form of horns and brass sounds with that African bass. And then, as I say, the Cajun is further up north.
Woo! Now that's what the spirit is all about. As Mahalia would say, let's on second line and lay down our burden by the riverside.
Music is so wonderful. It has all these different styles of music, and sort of like a gut bucket jazz blues sort of feeling. Then it has sort of like da 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 da. So it's interesting the fusion of the European horns with the African drums, and then the beat merged together. And then the whole rhythm of how they dance. It's a whole different kind of way.
I think the audience will walk away being reminded of where we live, of some of human beings' shortcomings, but that as a nation and as humanity, we're always better than this. And the music that New Orleans has left behind has left its indelible mark.
Meet E. Lynn Harris as he visits with fans at Milwaukee's Cultural Connection bookstore. Harris has been writing for 12 years and has now published 12 books, his latest being I Say a Little Prayer. His fans had the opportunity to take pictures and ask questions. They started with questions about his many characters, which he said were all fictitious, and was asked if any of the stories were from his own experiences.
They're novels, but you know, no writer, I think, worth his or her salt don't take from their own life experiences. That's more from the first novel. You know, a lot of people, you know, base their first novels on their own lives, but for me, I don't use my friends, I don't use actual experiences that I've actually had. It's just, you know, the creative process that I've been so blessed with.
Other questions? How did you know what you wanted to do?
Well, I started writing out of depression, quite frankly. And once I came through that, I decided I wanted to do something that I was willing to do for free, or that I would have a lot of joy about. And it turned out to be writing. So, you know, depression in a lot of ways, brought about my writing career. And I realized that I was very, very passionate about writing, and then all these different stories started to come for me, and have continued through 9 novels and a memoir.
Another question, how do you think your writings have had an effect on others coming out with books with gay characters? Now we have books about download brothers. How do you think you influenced that, because people didn't talk about it until your books?
Well, you know, I don't take credit for the whole download movement, because I think that's something that's been media induced, if you will. When I wrote Invisible Life, I just told the story that I needed to tell at that time. Hopefully, the success of my books have made it easier for other, people to get published, not only writing about gay or bisexual characters, but just African Americans in general. Let me read a little bit from I Say a Little Prayer. This book came to me at a small church in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and that's where I teach school, and some friends of mine had invited me to go to that church, and I had turned them down numerous times because I just don't go to church anymore. My faith is the most important thing in my life, but I just figured out another way to do it, so I don't really go to church because I was really tired of the mega churches and what have you. And so I went to this church this one Sunday, and I was really taken aback by the love that I felt once I walked into this church. It was just really, really warm and really, really wonderful. Kind of reminded me of this place, a small place where people that are there bring you a lot of love. And it just reminded me of the churches that I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas. And it reminded me what I missed about church and why church was so important to me. And when I got home, this character, Chauncey, came to me. One of the things I did on one of the revisions was, after I had written the book, I felt like I knew Chauncey a whole lot better than when I started the book. And so I started to think about him when he was young. And so I went in and I put in all these little interludes that told you, the reader, about his life when he was coming up and how he got to be the man that he turns out to be in this novel. And so I'm going to read one of those little interludes. I looked toward the basketball court where 6 young men ran up and down the court so fast that I wished that I had the coordination and height to play with them. I heard the rhythmic sound of the basketball hitting the pavement, then the clinging of the metal nets as the basketball swooshed through. I closed my eyes and imagined that I was in the middle of Harlem, witnessing a game of New York street ball like I had seen on television. But, well, when I opened my eyes, well, that's when I saw him. He was wearing a nondescript white t-shirt and baggy shorts. He looked like a midget among a forest of tall trees. I found myself gazing at only him, and when he looked in my direction, an aggressively bright sun stung his golden brown face. His eyes sparkled like a cold glass of ginger ale. From a distance, his body looked compact, without an ounce of fat. One of his teammates shouted for him to shoot, and the ball flew from his hand and arched high in the air before hitting nothing but net. I heard a guy say, "I guess you can play D. I heard they can shoot some hoops down in Georgia." Another echoed, "Your shot is so sweet, from now on we're going to call you Sweet D." After a few more laps up and down the court, Sweet D stopped his stride and looked at me. He smiled as he twirled the burnt orange ball on the tip of his finger, and I knew that somehow he would become an important part of my life.
Last thing I can tell you about my dad, who's passed on now, he was my friend.
George Foreman stressed the importance of fatherhood at the 4th Annual Summit. He also talked about his boxing career and the Rumble in the Jungle with Muhammad Ali.
So anyway, the fight was made. I'm in the ring with him. And I go out and I beat him up. He hit me with a couple, but it was like shoe fly. Don't bother me. I beat him up the second round. He hit me with a few more, but like shoe fly, I said, don't bother me. I'm certain I was gonna knock him out. And I mean, I beat on this guy, and finally about the 7th round, I hit him in the side. Boom, and he fell on me. I said, now he's gonna quit all that talking. He fell on me and said, "That all you got, George?" That was about all I had. I looked up, boom! 1-2 shot that knocked me down. I'm on the floor thinking, this can't be happening. I hit the floor trying to break the spot, and the referee counted 1. In just a moment, 2. I said, hold on, man. 3. I said, wait. By the time I jumped up, I lost that coveted heavyweight championship of the world I loved so much. And not to make it worse, he's over there, didn't I tell you?
He talked about becoming champion again at the age of 45.
Didn't have any money. My wife was pregnant. Told I was broke. I can't afford to fight anymore. I mean, I can't afford all these children. She said, oh, yes, you can. You better get something. So I came out of retirement, a middle-aged man, 315 pounds. But I had all these kids to feed. You heard about George, and George? I had to feed George, and George. And they had to go to school. God. So I traveled all over the world and people made jokes. George Foreman will never be prodigal son of boxing as long as he's looking like the fatted calves. His training camp is next to Baskin Robbins. But I looked in the mirror and said, they only saying those things because they're true. What are you going to do? Well, I got back in the business and I started boxing. I needed money for my youth center and for my family, and I started boxing. Finally, at the age of 40, almost 46, I got a chance to fight for the title again. Everybody was saying, you're too old. You're going to get killed. And I was in the ring with that Michael Moore. He was about 25, 24 or something. And I remember just like I was in the ring with Muhammad Ali. He was beating me up and I was beating him back. And he finally got the look on his face like Muhammad Ali had all those years. That's all you got, George? But then I said, I got the George Foreman lean, mean, fat-reducing grill machine. Boom! When we knocked him out, I became the oldest man ever to be heavyweight champ of the world. When that happened, J.D. Foreman was right there telling me, didn't I tell you? He was always with me, my father, J.D. Foreman.
He has become a successful entrepreneur, but it was his spiritual awakening that helped him understand the value of family and fatherhood. Once you underwent that religious conversion, how did that affect you as a father?
When I met up and had some, I didn't even know there was a God that in existence. I didn't believe in religion at all. But I had a death experience where I was dead and alive in a split second. I screamed, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me.
Clarify that a little more, Mr. Foreman.
I'm in right before a boxing match. After a boxing match, I lost by decision, went back to the dressing room to cool off. And as I did, thoughts came into my mind. I realized I was about to die in a dressing room because I couldn't cool off. And I heard a voice said, you believe in God, why are you scared to die? I played like I believe in God. I even told people I was praying, but I didn't believe in such. But at that moment, I started trying to make a deal because I knew I was about to die. I said, I still am George Foreman. I can box and give money to charity because I was rich. I heard a voice from within me say, I don't want your money, I want you. That changed my life. Then I was dead and alive again in this dark place over my head, under my feet, nothing but horror and sadness. If you multiply every sad thought that ever came to your mind, you wouldn't come close to what I did. And I got mad. I said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. I just didn't believe in religion. I got a second chance. I was snatched from this death, back alive in the dressing room, blood flowing through my veins. And as they laid me on the table, I screamed for the first time, Jesus Christ is coming alive in me, because I saw blood on my hand and forehead, and I hadn't been cut from the boxing match. 10 years, I became an evangelist. People started calling me brother, funerals. I was ordained, and in the 70s, I was ordained an evangelist, and that's what I've done since then.
Okay. Now, you want to go to that conversion. You experience death and you come back alive. But once again, how did that affect you as a father with your children, sir?
You know, when you're about to die, I looked behind me and I saw everything I'd ever worked for crumble like ashes. And the one thing I was sad about, I hadn't said goodbye to my mother, nor my children. You given a second chance to live, the first thing to come to your mind, go hug mama and stay close to your children. I wanted them to know I loved them. I had a second chance. I realized what was going to make me a good father then is not about how much I provided, but I was going to show those kids my love. And that's for children all they want. So that's all, that was the conversion. The conversion converted me to make certain that I love people.
As a father of 10 great children, what is the most rewarding thing to you as a father?
Well, for me, I remember my first son, as a matter of fact, that I saw his graduation.
Is that the one that served as your manager for a while?
Yeah,
okay,
George. He graduated Rice University, and they walked across the stage, and they said, George Foreman, and I realized through me, through him, I was living. To see your children graduate and get a college education, oh, man, that is the utmost for me.
Planning for college can be a challenging task for both parents and students. The complex process of finding, applying for, and affording the right school can be overwhelming. The College Board's Big Futures website is designed to guide families step by step through the process. We're joined now by actor Hill Harper, also known as Dr. Sheldon Hawks on CSI New York, who is also an education advocate and a spokesperson for the Big Futures website. Welcome to Black Nouveau, Mr. Harper. You've got 3 college.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. You got 3 college degrees yourself, so you really know the value and the importance of education in today's society. And for the point,
yes, you know, Liddy, I was just going to say I was agreeing with you. You know, for me, I'm the product of the public school system, and I was able to then go to Brown University and get 2 graduations from Harvard, and all my success in life, I believe, starts with the foundation of education, and I truly, truly believe that, and that's why I'm a big supporter of this new tool, this online resource tool, bigfuture.org.
What prompted the College Board to create the Big Futures website?
Well, I think that what prompted them is that the College Board wants to see more folks going to college. You know, at the end of the day, right now in this country, we, you know, about 40% of folks have college diplomas. The College Board's goal is by 2025 to have that number up to 55%. I personally think that that's not even high enough. I want to see us get up to 70, 80%. You know, the greatest thing about our country is that it's a participatory democracy, but that only works if folks participate, and the only way you can participate is if you're educated and you have information and you can actually make informed decisions. And so I'm a big supporter of education, and I want to figure out, I want to say to everyone, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your resources are, whether your parents went to college or didn't, you can go to school. No matter what age you are, you can go to college, and the bigfuture.org website helps you navigate that process.
When you say navigate that process, what services are available for them on this website?
Okay, it's a number of things. Number one, you go into the site, and you know, different colleges are for different people. You know, we all have different interests, and so it helps you identify, you know, what majors and what different colleges may fit your interest. It also identifies colleges and programs based on regions or areas of the country. It also helps you figure out cost issues. It helps you identify financial aid, grants, low interest loans, and what the true cost of college will be to you. There's a lot of fear out there, Liddy, about college, where you see these big numbers thrown around like $200,000, $300,000 for a college education, where the true cost of college you can identify by going onto the site, and you can understand that it's not as expensive as you think, and it's accessible to everyone through different portals. It also helps with the application process. A lot of people, if you're from a family who've never actually applied to college, you don't even know what that process is, and it walks you through that. So it's a one-stop shop for being able to navigate that journey into college.
How are the College Board people getting this information out to students to get to that site?
Well, part of the work is this. I mean, you know, you letting me come on the air to talk about it. You're right. There's, you know, even if it's a free online tool, right? No one's going to ask for your credit card information.
Right.
And so it's a great tool. It's for everyone, but it's only as good as how many people know about it. So we're asking people like you to spread the word. I'm on Twitter. Folks can, I read all my app mentions. If they hit me on Twitter and they need more information, it's also on Twitter. And so bigfuture.org is the site. The College Board is who's put it up. And it's a great tool.
Let's talk a bit about your foundation, MYD, and how it serves students.
Sure. My foundation is called Manifest Your Destiny, and we're kind of in a way the precursor to Big Future. Our goal is to catch young people who may be falling through the cracks, who may not be on the road to graduating even from high school. We work primarily with 8th graders transitioning into high school and attempting to deal with this real dropout crisis that we see happening across the country in many of our urban and lower income areas. And so I'm very proud of the work we've done. The title of the foundation is Manifest Your Destiny, is the subtitle of my first book. And I'm happy with the work we're doing, and I'm happy that we can, in a way, hopefully set up kids to graduate high school so they then can take advantage of going and matriculating into college.
Another thing, going to your, going to books, do you have any new books going out, new films coming out?
Well, you know, my latest book is called The Wealth Cure. I'm very proud that it hit the New York Times bestsellers list, and it talks about putting money in its place. The idea of, you know, money being a resource tool, but figuring out how you can save it, be debt-free, but also live your best life and the true wealth factors that come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Harper, and we are spreading the word because I got my grandson on that website already. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Liddy, thank you so much. And remember, no matter who you are out there, you have a big future, so check out the website, bigfuture.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.